I gave you guys a choice on what week 3 of the Thorgiween post-Shriek out reactions would be. I said it could either be part 3s of movie series, horror comedies, or documentaries. And as you can tell from the title card of this video, clearly documentaries was the winner. This is the untold story about the brave men who went out there to stop the ghost rampage of the 1980s that the media totally just covered up. Point out the true villain of the Environmental Protection Agency, and anybody who knows me knows how much of a joke that is, what I just said there. How much I clearly do not mean what I just said. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
I'm Michelle.
And I'm going to be very low energy for this review. Behind the scenes stuff, I just got out of surgery like 2 days ago. We tried to front load as many videos as we could, and I was like, yeah, I'll be all better by the time that, by the time we run out of videos. And no, not all better. I can record, but I'm not going to be quite as energetic as normal. And honestly, I'm kind of glad that you guys voted for us to do horror comedies this week, because after seeing so many mutilations and so much blood spilled and so many terrifying images, and then going into surgery, kind of feels good to have a change in pace. Except for the fact that it was surgery on my stomach, so it hurts when I laugh. So there's an upside and a downside to this. Yeah, when I was going under and they had like the mask on me and they're like, all right, breathe in, you're gonna go to sleep. Automatically, all that came to my mind was Nightmare on Elm Street, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. How many things out there have the message of do not go to sleep? Just instantly started coming to my mind. I was like, sure, great, this is appropriate. But yes, so we're talking about Ghostbusters because I know some people are gonna say, well, this isn't really a horror comedy. When I was a kid, this scared the hell out of me. This scared the hell out of me when I was a little kid. I don't know, when was the first time that you saw this?
Gee, I don't even remember. Like, it's been a while since I first saw it. Like, I definitely remember the cartoon and everything.
Oh, man, I feel like for people from my generation, we actually remember the cartoon more than we remember the movie. I would be willing to say that for certain things about specific characters, I would say that we attribute those traits to the cartoon more than this, and especially Janine. I think that most people out there remember Janine from the cartoon way more than they do from the movie. Like, Janine in the movie is a brunette. Or if she's a redhead, she's a very dark redhead. Practically brunette. And the moment that she popped up in this movie, I've seen this movie like 5, 6 times. Still, when she popped up in here, I just went, oh, right, she's not like a flaming redhead. Wow, yeah, that took a second.
Also, Egon wasn't blonde.
Yeah, that is one that, okay, I remember that because I remember Harold Ramis far more vividly. But yeah, it is so weird how much they changed the characters for that cartoon.
But like, I understand why. They want to make the characters more distinct.
Also, I think that there were some legal things where they had to like make them look distinctly enough different from their visual selves. I think it had to do with like, actually I don't think it was a legal thing, like they didn't own the rights. I think it was more like merchandising things like, oh, if we make them look more distinct, then we get more of a profit off of something like that. I heard when it came to Egon specifically being blonde, I heard something about how merchandising played something of a role in that. But yeah, this is a movie that honestly, I feel like everybody out there has seen this film. Like probably several times throughout the course of your life. And for good reason. This thing, it is one of the great comedies of the 1980s. But that isn't to say that we're just going to spend this entire time just coming in here and just praising this thing nonstop. Because there are a few problems that I think that this film has. There are a few things that don't hold up all that well.
Yeah, it's definitely a product of this time. Yes,
very much so. In more ways than a lot of people out there think. Because I know a lot of people out there think of this as being a product of their times and think of, oh yeah, like those specific comedians or like the setting and everything like that. I was watching this film analysis, this critique series out there called Really That Good, and they were talking about the Ghostbusters, and they mentioned that right when the time when this came out, The Exorcist was still pretty big. So that idea of like the paranormal was all over America. Everybody still had paranormal fever at the time. So this was a film that came in at that time when so many movies out there were about this supernatural thing coming in here and attacking these people who had no way of fighting back. And they said, let's just have people not only fight back, but blue-collar everyman kind of people come in here and fight back. And that was really the appeal of this thing because it was regular average Joes standing up to the thing that so many other movies said you cannot stand up against.
Yeah, it is really very much an underdog movie.
It so very much is, yes, absolutely. And I've said this many times before, but whenever they announce like a new Ghostbusters or anything like that, I always get very nervous about, you know, and a lot of it has to do because I've said the magic of Ghostbusters is the premise is nice. The premise of what if Exorcist were like exterminators? That's nice, that's cool, you know, that's something that we don't really get. But that's not what makes the movie work. What makes the movie work is Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis. I can't even go with Winston too much in there because, and that's one of the problems I have with this film. I'll go ahead and get into that. As I said, this movie, it's great, it's amazing, it still holds up. You all know it still holds up. But a problem that I have with this film, and especially now looking at it with a more critical eye, is that Winston is a great addition to this team. He's an addition that this team needs. He's the outsider. He's the guy who doesn't know anybody in here. He's the guy who has not been studying this his entire life like everyone else on this team. He is the perfect everyman to be that avatar for the audience on this team. He does not get introduced until halfway through this movie. And even after being introduced, he only has 2 scenes until we hit the 3rd act. The 3rd act when it's like, all right, everything's going crazy and we gotta go in there and we gotta save the day. And it's supposed to be this moment of like, yeah, everybody's coming together. And instead you're looking at Winston, he's not even like Hawkeye in the Avengers. Like
they even joked about that in Stranger Things. Like
yeah. Absolutely. Like I remember when everybody was dressing up in Stranger Things to be members of the Ghostbusters, I just looked at him and was like, Will should be Winston because Will was gone for the entire first season. Absolutely, yeah, and that is a problem of the like I said, I don't want to start off with negatives, but you all know the positives of this thing, and we are coming in here and kind of reviewing it. Yeah, that is a problem with this film, is that Winston is such a good addition to this team. He comes in here halfway through the film, and he only has 2 scenes, and the scene is, well, yes, I would very much like this job. That's a big Twinkie. And then he has the one good scene with Dan Aykroyd, with Ray, where they really kind of set up that idea of, yeah, but what about the spiritual side of this? What about the end of days and all that stuff? That is a great scene. And Winston, again, not being the science guy on the team, him being the one that brings up, yeah, but what about the biblical stuff in here? That's great. That's exactly what he should do. And that is all that he does before it is time for them to all assemble. And there's that moment where they're in the mayor's office, and he says, I have seen shit that would turn you white. And I was like, have you? Because we have not seen you on a single job. We do not see Winston do anything on this team until he has to come in and save the day at the very end. And it's so weird that he's the one that gets the final line of, I love this town. It's like, we don't really even know what your personality is, dude. Like, what connection do you have to New York or anything like that? And this is a film that, watching it again, I've watched this several times, but I've never watched it to kind of like go, okay, let's kind of like judge like pros and cons on this thing. Watching it now, there are several things in here that made me go, this has to be a movie where there were several deleted scenes. Like, I guarantee you, the script for this, the original script has to be out there on the internet. The original script has to have a bunch of scenes that did not make it into the movie. Because there's stuff with Winston and how Winston needed to be in way more of this film. But also the stuff with Janine and Egon. Like, that's something that, you talk about what people know more from the cartoon. Janine and Egon, they were like a thing in the cartoon. They were,
and that completely went over my head in the movie. Like, I didn't even notice.
Because it's like non-existent, because they never established it in here.
Yeah.
But it is still a thing, but there's no introduction to it, there's no kind of resolution to it, there's no nothing. There's just a scene that shows that, yeah, they are kind of a thing, and that's it. And it's one of those things that you look at and go, there had to have been other scenes in here for that. That ended up getting deleted. This is one of those films where everything that's in here is good, but you can tell there were scenes that would have made things better in here. But those are really the only like complaints I have. That and the sex jokes do not age well. Like, we just have to go ahead and address that. The sex jokes don't age well. We were watching this thing, and it was before they even got to like busting Slimer. You turned to me and went, I forgot how much of a horn dog Venkman was. And I was like, yeah, man, it's one of those things that you do not really think about when you think back to the thing, but when you go back and you rewatch, it's like, oh my God, almost every line out of his mouth is hitting on people. Anytime that there's a woman present, every single thing he says is just like designed to get them into bed. And this is one thing that I do have to kind of applaud the film for, though. Every character's performance is cohesive. This is a film that you can tell the writers of it came from a sketch comedy background. Because a lot of like the first half of this film doesn't even really set up like a story or anything. The story is they're getting the firehouse and they're starting their business. That's really kind of the story in there. But almost every single scene is basically kind of just like, this is a funny thing we thought we could put in here. This is a funny interaction. This is a good thing to have these characters do. And that is like a sign of a sketch comedy writer, because it's just like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. God, I can't remember his name, but the Keymaster. By the way, sorry to get dirty on you guys here, but there's the moment in this film where Keymaster walks in. Man, I'm forgetting everybody.
Rick Moranis?
Yeah, Rick Moranis, thank you. Rick Moranis walks into, it was Sigourney Weaver, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay. But he walks into Sigourney Weaver's place, and she is just sprawled out there. And he just goes, I am the Keymaster, you the gatekeeper. And she's like, I am the gatekeeper. I've watched this thing like 5 or 6 times. I'm in my 30s at this point. And I just went, I never got until right now. That is a dick and vagina joke right there. It never occurred to me as like, the male is the Keymaster, she's the gate. Okay.
Yeah, once again, all those sexual innuendos.
Yeah, there's a lot of sexual innuendos here. Rick Moranis' character is totally a sketch comedy character. He is this random, weird oddball in this film that he does serve a purpose to the plot, but his character, when he pops up in here, he is such a firmly established joke. I don't mean character, I mean he is a firmly established, we're going to have you be on for 5 minutes every week on Saturday Night Live to be that accountant guy who just knows the price of everything, and you're obsessed with getting the best deal on everything, and you're an incredible nerd, and you're all about saving money. That is a sketch comedy character that they put into this movie. But he works. It's like, I'm not coming in here, when I say that this was made by sketch comedy writers, that is not me like wagging fingers saying, hey, it's bad. I'm just saying it's like, it's a very interesting thing when you kind of notice that. And yeah, this was definitely like almost a series of Saturday Night Live skits if you just have the same character appearing in each skit. But as I was saying, this film, it is very cohesive, because a lot of times when you have movies that are like that, where every single scene is basically just, yeah, we're just going to do whatever we want in this scene, characters kind of jump around and they're kind of just whatever they need to be for that scene. And it was really impressive to me watching it this time that I really noticed everybody is the thing that they are. Every single character is a thing that they are in every single scene. And even in like the little moments that you don't even notice, like you were talking about what Horn Dog Venkman is, right after you said that to me, he walks into the big hotel of the, hey, anybody seen a ghost? And there's like a lady that goes walking past him, and just he doesn't say anything, he just stops and turns and looks, and he goes, that is such a small, like, little motion, but it matches everything about his character. And I honestly think that this movie has one of the best introductions to characters we've ever gotten, because the first, like, 3, 4, 5 scenes that we get in here, like, the entire opening of this movie, every line of dialogue out of the 3 main characters in here is 100% an introduction and identification for the audience about what that character is. Every single line. Like, you open up with Venkman there, like, doing the test on the people. It's like, okay, you know he's into, like, psychic stuff here, and you know that he clearly has a preference for ladies over there because of just how he's setting up this test.
He's also a smooth talker.
Smooth talker, yes, that's a good word to go for it. But then you go over and Ray comes in, and Ray is just oblivious to everything that's happening. He's like, okay, yep, that's his character. And then you get into the library, thank you. And the very first thing that Egon does, like after Egon starts describing the place, Venkman just says to him, like, it's like that time that I had to stop you from drilling a hole into your head. And Egon says, that would have worked if you hadn't stopped me. That is one of the best early lines to give a character to make us realize what that character is. Like, it is really genius how they set up every single character. I was honestly, that's not something that I never appreciated about this film, but it is done so well in this movie.
And like even Winston's character, like when he first appears and he like wants to get a job, is like
the fact that his first line is, "If it'll help me get a steady paycheck, I'll believe in anything." We know this guy. He is the working class guy on this team. But there's a lot of other things about these characters that I never really noticed in here, and they give them a lot of depth. Like Ray and Egon, they are so much more focused on the science of this. They are 100% like laser focused on the science side of all this. Whereas Bill Murray, Venkman, I know he's Venkman, but it feels like you should just call him Bill Murray because Harold Ramis is playing a character. Dan Aykroyd is playing a character. Bill Murray is playing Bill Murray. To a varying degree, but it's the character we like Bill Murray playing, so he did a lot. And again, it's not a complaint, not wagging my finger going, well, he wasn't really trying, he was just doing the same thing they always does. We like him doing that same thing, and it worked 100% for this character. What the hell was I saying? Oh yeah, Bill Murray, he is always like second guessing. I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. He's always coming in there and kind of like poking fun at the two science guys in here. And then there's that moment when they're in prison, which, by the way, I freaking love. Again, a thing that I never really noticed in here, but when they're laying out the blueprints, I love that all the prisoners, for no reason, they're just fascinated by this. They're all just coming over and they're like, leaning over their shoulders, they're like, what are you guys doing? And I don't know why, but I really enjoy that they're discussing the fate of New York City, and all the politicians and the lawmakers, they didn't care, but the guys locked up in jail, they were all like, oh, this is important stuff and we need to listen to these guys. I don't know why, but it's such a small detail, and I love that moment in there. But there's that moment when they're looking at all the blueprints, it's like, okay, imagine that I know nothing about physics, I know nothing about any of this stuff, explain it to me like that. And then he goes, you never studied. I never noticed that line before. I never did. And if I did, I always just like, it flew right by me. It hit me this time watching it. Venkman doesn't know any of this stuff. No. Venkman is a smooth talker. Yes, he has a doctorate in all this stuff.
Smooth talker and bullshitter.
And bullshitter. Yes, he has a doctorate in this because he bullshit his way through it. And watching it this time, it was like a whole new chapter to his character opened up. I can't get more excited than that. My guts are going to rip out. Yeah, it was in that moment that, man, I can feel my throat cracking from the surgery. Here's something that they never tell you about surgery. They're gonna stick the tube into your mouth so that way they can pump oxygen into you when they're doing the surgery. When you have a tube in your mouth for like 2 hours, you're going to have the worst crackly dry mouth you have had in your life for days. Sorry, little warning to anybody out there who's never had surgery.
Like they even did that with me when they took my wisdom teeth out.
Oh yeah, oh man, wisdom teeth, that's a rough one. But yeah, that little tiny line in there speaks so many volumes and makes you look at everything that his character's done throughout this film and go, oh my god, it all makes sense now. Because that was one question that I always had about Venkman. It's like, aren't you a scientist? Like, why are you not scientific like the other guys? I mean, you're a fun character. I don't have a problem with you not being scientific, but why aren't you? That one line like sums all up. Like, but it also sums up their relationship with each other, in that Ray knows Venkman isn't into any of this stuff. Ray knows that his buddy, the guy who was like side by side with him this whole time, does not even, well, I wouldn't say he doesn't believe any of this stuff that he's dedicated his life to studying.
He's skeptical.
He's more skeptical, and he doesn't know any of this stuff. Like, it's a very weird dynamic that the two of them have. This guy who dedicated his life to studying this, and this other guy who did not dedicate his life to studying it, but both of them, like academically, are on equal footing, and yet Ray's still friends with him. It says a lot about Ray in that moment.
Yeah, I also like how Ray and Egon are also like very different. Like even though they're both
both science guys, but they're both totally different.
Yes, like Egon is like the more serious, like scientific, always like studying every little thing. Like Ray is like the more excitable one who like is really fascinated by these things. Is like more of a nerd or like a geek. Yeah, Ray is the geek. Egon is the nerd.
Yes. It's a very good way to put it. But that is a very good point in that so many times in movies where there's the science guy, you never double up on the science guy, because when you double up on the science guy, they're both going to be the science guy. They are completely different characters in this movie, and I love that.
Plus, you kind of need science people to work with, like, ghosts and everything,
yes.
So...
I mean, heck, they couldn't even put 3 science guys in here. They need the line in there to explain why Venkman is not the science guy. Yeah, I think it is great how they depict every single one of these characters. However, to go into another, like, little problem that I have with this film, and it has to do with, I feel like there are deleted scenes of this thing. Peck, the villain of this thing. Again, when you think back to this film, and you're like, yeah, Peck, he's such a bad guy in here. you go back and you'll watch this thing this time, and again, I'm like, this time I'm analyzing it a little bit more critically, I will admit. Peck has one scene where he comes in, asks to see their thing, they say no, and then he comes back and destroys the entire world. And it feels like, well, that escalated quickly. It's one of those things where you really feel like, man, Peck really needed like one more scene in there. Also, man, I don't know if it's just because of like the times that we live in or something, but watching this film today and seeing that the Environmental Protection Agency guy was going, yeah, you've got like a nuclear reactor here in the middle of New York City. Can we take a look at that? No. Okay. Like, Venkman is just a complete shit to him. And when you watch it, I mean, when you think back in your memory, you remember Peck after he comes back and he causes the entire, like, city to be overrun with ghosts. And he's just, you know, he's dickless the entire rest of the film, which that is such a good line. Yes, yes, Your Honor, this man has no dick. Yeah, that line is so good. But yeah, when you think back to it, you remember Peck and he was such an asshole. But in the very first scene where he comes in there and he's like, hey, I'm with the Environmental Protection Agency. We just need to take a look at what you have down there. He's not an asshole in that scene. He's actually just doing his job. And it's kind of a job that needs to be done. Like, it's one of those things where when you watch this film and you know about that, and you see them there in the elevator, and they're just like, it just occurred to me that we never tested this thing. We basically have nuclear reactors strapped to our back. Yeah, maybe someone from the Environmental Protection Agency should take a gander at this thing, should take a look at it. And yeah, it is so weird to me that my memory of Peck is based entirely after he becomes an asshole. He's not really an asshole in the first scene. Venkman is 100% the asshole. Venkman turned him away, and then he just went out there and just was like, well, I'll show them. There's a whole different version of this movie where Venkman was like, yeah, okay, come on down. And he takes a look at it and goes, well, okay, I guess this is all right. And then nothing happens throughout the rest of the film. It's one of those weird moments in there where you realize, wow, Venkman just being a dick caused the rest of the bad things in this movie.
It's like, now, yeah, it's like, it does feel like there are some, like, scenes that are missing, because rewatching them, I was like, oh, this movie's a lot shorter than I remember. Like, it
does feel like they're, man, that montage in there where you show them rising to fame, it feels like that is an act of the film that was just crammed into a montage. Again, this is a great film, but it is one of those things in which you're like, wow, there should have been like 20 more minutes of this movie. It really feels like we could have just kept going with this thing.
Also, the dream Ray had with the ghost is like, I kind of need an explanation for that, please.
We talked about how the sex humor in here did not age well because Venkman is now kind of almost creepy with how horny he is. By the way, something to notice about this film, why did he have sleeping pills on his date with Sigourney Weaver?
I just assume he like got sleeping pills from her medicine cabinet, or...
Okay, that's way better.
Yes.
Okay. I'll accept that explanation. Except they are like industrial strength sleeping pills, but maybe she had them, maybe she had them. But it is one of those things I was like, back in the 80s, that was a thing that people didn't really think about, because back in the 80s, like, hey man, if you're a swinging 80s guy, it doesn't matter what you do, and now we know that's terribly wrong, and that's not right at all. But yeah, when you talk about how the sex humor in here does not hold up, the Venkman stuff is still at least funny. The thing with Ray in here is just weird.
Yeah.
It's just weird, and that scene needs to go. Like, I keep pointing at this film and saying, no, none of these scenes need to go. They're all good. We just need some more scenes in there to make them work a little bit better. That is the one scene in this movie that's like, no, you can cut that out here.
Yeah.
You can get that. In the words of the guy who ended up replacing Lorenzo Music to play Peter Venkman on The Real Ghostbusters, cut it out. Get it out of here. That was a deep cut of a reference in there. But yeah, this film, again, I'm coming in here and I'm pointing out, I don't even want to call them flaws, but I'm pointing out some problems that I do have with the film, simply because we all know what makes the movie good. We all know that this movie is hilarious. We all know the appeal of, especially during the 80s, during that time when paranormal craze was sweeping the nation, having the average Joe be the one who stood up to these guys, yeah, to the supernatural, to the unknown. That was great in there. The three main characters in there, and by the way, not bad-mouthing Ernie Hudson in here as Winston, he's just not in here nearly enough. The main feature of the film, it is Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, and Bill Murray in here. Yeah, they are an amazing comedic team in there. They bounce off each other so much that I was watching this, and I honestly want to know how many lines were improv in this thing. Because these are great writers in there, but there's so many just quick moments from Bill Murray that you just look at and go, I bet that wasn't in the script. I bet they just made that up. Yeah, they probably just made that up. Yeah, I was going on about all the good stuff in here. I mean, special effects for the time, fantastic in there.
Yeah, some of it doesn't really hold up.
Some of it, yes.
But a lot of it does.
The dogs.
Yeah, the dogs were the ones.
The dogs are the things that do not hold up. But again, I watched this during the 80s, and that was really damn impressive during the 80s, but Slimer still holds up.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, you talk about how this movie is also, like, legitimately creepy in here. The cab driver, the ghost cab driver, holy crap, that is still a creepy effect in here. Although I will say, speaking of the effects, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man looks great. But again, you talk about things that you really feel like there was a deleted scene for it. When it comes and goes, it's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I don't know what that is. That's not introduced. There is a scene where he is eating Stay Puft Marshmallows earlier.
Yeah.
There is that. But how many people in the audience were going to read the name of the bag of random marshmallows he's eating in one scene and then remember that until the end of the film? It feels like there was one line in that scene that would have just made the Stay Puft Marshmallow come back so much stronger at the end. Again, not saying Stay Puft Marshmallow is bad. That is an amazing thing to be the villain at the end of this film, but it feels like there was one line that got cut. And it's like, why on earth would you cut that? Why on earth would you cut the setup for the villain at the end of the film?
Like, it would have made more sense if it was Twinkie the Kid.
Yeah, at least we know that. Yeah, like they invented a thing for this.
Yeah.
Which, I gotta say, when I was a kid, they made Hi-C, that Ecto Cooler, which they brought that back when the Ghostbusters reboot came out. That thing is actually legit still good. Like, there's so many foods and drinks that I ate and drank when I was a kid that I've tried to return to. I'm like, oh my god, that's terrible. When Ecto Cooler came back, I drank that and was legitimately shocked that is actually a good drink. I'm shocked that isn't still a thing. But the thing that has always surprised me, why did Stay Puft Marshmallows never become a thing?
I don't know.
That feels like the kind of thing that you could just take and run with that.
Well, I felt like the whole purpose of Stay Puft is because they didn't want like an actual like logo, mascot because of copyright issues.
Oh, that's why they invented it. Yeah. But what I'm saying is they invented it, license that shit out to a marshmallow company out there, man. Like, go on, do it, man. There's a couple of food products out there that were invented for movies and just kind of took off. I can't name any of them. I'm blanking on all of them right now, but I do know that there's a couple out there.
Like, mostly it's just cereal. Like,
yeah, cereals are the big ones I'm going to.
It's like, fun fact, I used to think that the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and the Michelin Man were related.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Absolutely. But yeah, there's so much good here. It's just, aside from the Ray sex dream, everything else in here, nothing is bad, but there are definitely things in here that would have been better if there were other scenes in there to flesh them out, to give them an introduction, to give us more time with them. But yeah, I still think that this film is a great comedy from the 80s. It is a wonderful thing to watch this time around Halloween. I do love the creativity that goes into it. There's so many good things to say about this film, but as I said, we all know that this is good. This is really us just coming in here just basically to say, hey man, what's it like to go back and rewatch this numerous times over and kind of analyze it in a way that you never have before. Also because, I mean, we're doing horror comedies this week. This one is 90% comedy, 10% horror, but it is one of the most well-known supernatural comedies, I'd say, and yeah, you don't have to just watch horror films at Halloween, you can just watch fun stuff. But yeah, thank you guys very much for tuning in. Anything else you want to say?
Boston makes me feel good.
I thought you said Boston makes me feel good. Like, okay, yeah, shout out to Boston in there.
No.
This one was made in New York, you know that. We kind of have a rivalry going
Although
with them.
Now that I realize that all the sexual innuendos now, Boston makes me feel good has another meaning to it now.
We're going to end this now. We're going to end this now. But thank you guys very much for tuning in. We've got one more review coming up with me post-surgery, and then hopefully by the time we record the rest of these reviews for this week, I'll be all better. But thank you guys for tuning in. Let us know what you thought about Ghostbusters in the comments down below. And remember, all week long, horror comedies. But I should go ahead and say this right now. Next week, for the final full week of Thorgiween, the theme will, as always, be viewer requests. So if you want to request a movie, let me know in the comments down below or on Twitter @Professor Thorgy. Thank you guys for tuning in, and happy Halloween.
Bye.